Welcome to a special report for the J-Spot, the place where we stimulate the most sensitive parts of your brain.
And honestly, today isn't really about stimulation. It's about survival.
It really is. Look, we're usually here talking about, weird history or the future of AI, fun stuff.
Right.
But today is Thursday, February 19th, 2026. And if you've been watching the news at all, even just in the last 48 hours, you know the ground has just completely shifted under the feet of millions of Americans.
It has. And we're doing this special report because the signal-to-noise ratio out there is, well, it's terrible right now.
Mm-hmm.
You turn on the TV, you see the Support Our Troops banners, the ribbons, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the stack of documents we've been reading since Tuesday morning.
Yeah, the stack is huge.
Urgent bulletins from legal firms like Berry Law, breaking stuff from the Washington Monthly. The American Legion is basically hitting the panic button. The reality is, it's completely different.
It feels like a coordinated attack, a pincer movement. On one side, you have these new rules threatening to slash disability pay. And on the other, a massive purge of the actual people who work at the VA. And then this quiet, sort of steady funneling of money to private companies.
Exactly. It's a trifecta. Deregulation, privatization, and just workforce reduction. And our mission today is to connect those dots for you.
Because on their own, they just look like bureaucratic tweaks.
But you put them all together, and it really looks like the dismantling of the entire Veterans Affairs system as we know it.
So let's start with the thing that has everybody's phone blowing up since Tuesday, this Medicated state rule. I mean, it sounds like something from a sci-fi novel, but this is a legal nightmare.
It's the single biggest shift in disability logic in a generation. And to understand why, lawyers are completely freaking out, you have to go back to a court case. It's called Jones v. Shinseki.
Okay, so lay the groundwork for us.
The Jones case, it established a very simple, very humane principle. If you have a disability, let's say it's severe hypertension or mental health condition like anxiety, the VA has to rate that disability based on the condition without the benefit of any medication you're taking.
Right. That makes total sense. Like, if I have terrible eyesight and I put on my glasses, I can see, but I still have terrible eyesight.
Exactly.
The glasses didn't cure me. They're just managing the problem.
Precisely. You take the glasses off, you're blind again. You stop taking the blood pressure meds, you could have a stroke. The medication masks the symptom, but the underlying disease is still there.
But on Tuesday, February 17th, the VA published what they're calling an interim final rule that just flips this whole thing on its head.
Interim final rule. I mean, it's such a bureaucratic speak for we're doing this now and we don't care if you like it or not.
So what does it do?
The new rule, it instructs VA examiners to evaluate disabilities based on the veteran's current medicated state.
Okay, so play this out for me. I'm a veteran. I have tinnitus that keeps me from sleeping, or, I have severe PTSD. I take medication that helps. I go in for my evaluation. What happens to me now?
Under this new rule, the examiner looks at you and says, well, you seem to be sleeping okay. You aren't having a panic attack in front of me right now. You're functioning.
And because I'm functioning,
they can lower your disability rating.
So they cut the check.
They cut the compensation. I mean, Berry Law put out a bulletin saying this could affect over 500 different diagnostic codes.
500.
Sleep apnea, heart conditions, almost all mental health conditions.
But that creates this perverse incentive, right? If I need that disability payment to pay my mortgage, and I know that taking my meds to get better means losing that income, am I going to stop taking my meds?
That is the absolutely terrifying question here. You are financially penalizing veterans for complying with their doctor's orders.
Mm-hmm.
Dan K. Wiley, he's the national commander of the American Legion, he came out swinging on this. He argued that functional management isn't a cure. The trauma, the moral injury, the physical damage, it's all still there.
And the administration knows this is a toxic issue, right? Because of how they did it. They just skipped the part where they asked for permission.
That's the interim final part of it. Mm-hmm. Usually by federal law, there's a notice and comment period. You propose a rule, you let the VFW and the Legion and the public scream about it for 90 days.
Right.
They bypassed all of that. They claimed that giving advance notice was, and this is a quote, contrary to the public interest.
Contrary to the public interest, to let the public know you're about to slash their benefits. I mean, that takes some serious nerve.
It just screams urgency. They're treating cost-cutting like it's a national emergency. They want those savings on the books now, before Congress or the courts can even react.
So that's the money side. Now let's talk about the actual health care. Because even if you manage to keep your benefits, good luck finding a doctor to see you. We're looking at these reports from AFGE, that's the Government Workers Union, and Washington Monthly. The numbers are just staggering.
They really are. This is data from just last month, January 2026. In the first year of this administration, the VA has shed 40,000 employees.
40,000, is that just, people retiring?
No, it's way, way beyond natural attrition. And the really scary part is who left. 88% of those losses were in healthcare.
Wow.
Doctors, nurses, psychologists, addiction specialists, the people who actually treat veterans.
And this all ties into that DOGE initiative, right? The Department of Government Efficiency.
Right, is that big push championed by Elon Musk to cut dead weight in the federal government. But the problem is, when you apply that sort of tech company efficiency model to a hospital system, dead weight starts to look a lot like staffing.
And staffing is the product in healthcare.
Exactly.
There's a really bitter irony here that the Washington Monthly piece points out. Who actually works at the VA?
Veterans do. About 30% of the entire federal workforce is made up of veterans. So under this banner of efficiency, the administration is disproportionately firing the very people they claim to support. You're firing veterans to save money on veterans' care.
And we are already seeing the fallout. This isn't theoretical.
No, not at all. It's right there in the data. The AFGE report tracks wait times. In May of 2024, the average wait for a mental health appointment was 17 days.
Okay, that's manageable.
Right. Now, it is doubled, 35 days.
35 days. If you're in a real crisis, if you're suicidal, 35 days is, it's a death sentence.
It can be. And that's just the average. The report mentions one facility in California. They lost 7 of their 12 mental health providers in this purge.
So what's their wait time?
134 days.
4.5 months.
Imagine calling for help and being told, okay, we'll see you in the summer. And Washington Monthly notes this wasn't an accident. VA Secretary Doug Collins was actively encouraging staff to retire. He canceled union contracts. It looks like a deliberate dismantling of the internal workforce.
Which just begs the question, why? Why break your own system unless
breaking the system is the whole point.
Which brings us to the P word, privatization.
Stealth privatization.
Exactly.
If you break the internal system, if you make those wait times 134 days, you create this moral justification to send everyone out into the private sector. You can stand up at a podium and say, look, the VA is broken. We have to give veterans choice.
And we have breaking news on that front, too. A press release from VA News that just dropped yesterday about dental care.
Right. The VA has released a request for proposals, an RFP. They're looking for a private administrator to run a national network of dental providers. They're not trying to hire more VA dentists. They're trying to hand the entire dental system over to a private corporation.
And this just follows the money trail we're seeing in the 2026 budget.
It does. Washington Monthly did a deep dive on those numbers. The budget calls for spending more than a third of the Veterans Health Administration's $115 billion budget on outside private providers.
Third of it.
That's a 50% increase in outsourcing compared to just a few years ago.
Okay, I want to pause here. Because I can hear someone listening right now saying, wait a minute, why is this so bad? If I can go to a private dentist down the street instead of driving 2 hours to a VA hospital, isn't that a win for me?
And that is the community care argument.
Sure.
And for some people in some places, it is a win. I get that. But here's the reality check from the VA Loan Network's analysis. Private care only works if private care actually exists where you live.
You're talking about rural America.
Exactly. In rural parts of the country, private hospitals are closing at a record rate. They're totally overwhelmed. And even more importantly, does your local GP, does your local dentist know how to identify the signs of burn pit exposure? Do they understand military sexual trauma?
Probably not.
The VA is a center of excellence for those specific combat-related conditions. If you dismantle that and scatter veterans into a private system that's already breaking, you lose all that institutional knowledge. You're not getting better care, you're just getting fragmented care.
And you're funneling taxpayer money into corporate profits instead of a public system.
That is the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's a massive wealth transfer, and it's being disguised as choice.
This brings us to the weirdest part of this whole deep dive, the history. Because this whole privatization push, it didn't just start in 2026. Our sources keep mentioning the Mar-a-Lago crowd, and I have to be honest, when I first read that, it sounded like a conspiracy theory.
I know, it really does. It sounds like fiction. But it's very well documented history. During the first Trump term, there was this informal council. Bruce Moskowitz, Ike Perlmutter, and Mark Sherman, 3 members of the Mar-a-Lago Club.
So not government employees.
No. not elected, not confirmed by the Senate. They were just guys at the club who had the president's ear. And they were effectively running the VA from the patio.
And there were conflicts of interest.
Massive ones. Moskowitz famously objected to a new electronic health record system, a multi-billion-dollar deal, basically because he just personally didn't like the interface.
Unbelievable.
But their main goal, their ideological push, was always privatization. They saw the VA's integrated model as socialism and wanted to turn it into an insurance program, just a check writer for private doctors.
And now, when you look at the 2026 budget, you look at this dental RFP, it looks like their plan won.
Their vision is being implemented. The Mar-a-Lago 3 might not be in the room anymore, but their blueprint is definitely on the desk.
So that's the policy reality, but then you have the narrative, because if you just listen to the White House press briefings, this administration claims to be the most pro-veteran in history.
Oh, the rhetoric is incredibly strong. We've got a White House fact sheet from last May. President Trump signed an executive order establishing a National Center for Warrior Independence.
That sounds impressive.
The goal is to house 6,000 homeless veterans. And the Carolinian reported just yesterday that the VA claims it permanently housed almost 52,000 homeless vets last year.
I mean, we have to give credit where it's due. Getting 52,000 veterans off the street is a very good thing.
It is absolutely a win, no question. But we have to look at the funding and the framing of it. The money for that Center for Warrior Independence is explicitly being redirected from services for illegal aliens. It sets up a very specific us versus them narrative. We're taking from the intruders to give to our heroes.
But that narrative gets really, really messy when the hero and the intruder are the same person.
And that is the dark contradiction here. While they are cutting ribbons on homeless centers, they are actively deporting veterans.
We have that Military Times report from last September.
Yes. Back in April 2025, the administration rescinded a policy that considered military service a significant mitigating factor in deportation cases. Basically, your service used to buy you some grace.
And now
Now it buys you nothing.
there's one story in that piece that just stopped me cold. Sejun Park.
It's a heartbreaking story. Sejun Park came to the U.S. when he was 7. He served in the Army. He is a Purple Heart recipient. He was wounded in combat in Panama, fighting for this country.
A Purple Heart recipient.
Later in life, he got into some legal trouble. Drug possession. Which, let's be honest, is so often tied to untreated PTSD from the very combat he served in.
Right.
For 14 years, under previous policies, he would check in with immigration and he was safe. But in June of 2025, they told him he had a final removal order.
So what did he do?
Rather than sit in a detention center, he chose to self-deport to South Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was a little kid. He basically said, I took bullets for this country, but if you don't want me, I'm gone.
And he's not the only one.
No. There's another case, Narciso Barranco. He was detained in Santa Ana. He's the father of 3 U.S. Marines. So you have a policy that claims to honor the troops while deporting the fathers of Marines and the veterans who literally bled for the flag.
It brings up those old reports, doesn't it? The Guardian and PBS stories about the suckers and losers comments.
It does. The administration always denied saying that back in 2020.
Yeah.
But when you look at the actions in 2026, cutting disability for people who get treatment, firing veteran healthcare workers, deporting veteran residents, it feels so transactional.
Yeah.
It feels like the message is, you were useful when you held a rifle, but now that you need expensive care or you need a job or you have a legal issue, you're a liability on the balance sheet.
It's a heavy, heavy picture. But we promised we would find the J spot, that little nugget of stimulation that isn't just doom and gloom. Is there any good news in this entire stack? Is anything moving in the right direction?
There are a few glimmers, and for some listeners, these are actually huge. We can talk about gun rights.
Yeah.
For a long time, there was this problem where if a veteran needed a fiduciary...
Someone to help manage their finances.
Right, because of age or a disability, the VA would automatically report them to the FBI's NICS background check system.
Which effectively took away their Second Amendment rights just because they needed help balancing a checkbook.
Exactly. It was a huge stigma. And on Tuesday, the VA announced they are stopping that, effective immediately. They're restoring those rights. That is a massive win for advocacy groups who have fought that for decades.
Okay. That is significant. What else?
Survivors' benefits.
Yeah.
There's a regulation change, it's very technical, about dependency and indemnity compensation versus survivors' pension. But the upshot is they're cutting red tape to pay out the higher benefit faster.
Good.
It puts money in the hands of grieving families months sooner than before.
What about the tech stuff? I know that electronic health record rollout has been a complete disaster zone for years.
It has been very rocky, but it hasn't stopped. VA News confirms the rollout is continuing in 2026. It's going to sites in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and Alaska. So despite the privatization push, there is still some investment happening in the core infrastructure. It's not a total abandonment.
So it's a very complex bag. Some rights restored, some benefits streamlined, but this massive structural threat is just looming over the whole system. Before we wrap up, I want to take a second for our secluded shout-out. We usually pick someone at random, but today, given the topic, this one feels right.
Who do we have?
I want to shout out Sergeant Nicole Espinal down in Tampa, Florida. She served, she's out now, and she is currently grinding away, working on her nursing degree.
And honestly, that is the future right there. We're sitting here talking about workforce shortages and firing healthcare workers. Veterans like Nicole who go from service into healthcare are exactly who we need to be protecting and empowering.
Absolutely.
She is the backbone of the very system we're trying to save.
Yes, she is. Good luck with those exams, Nicole. We are all rooting for you.
So, if we step back and synthesize all of this, what is the big takeaway?
It really just feels like a paradox.
It is. You've got a pro-veteran administration that is restoring gun rights and building homeless shelters. That's the headline. But just below the fold, they are slashing the workforce, privatizing medical care, and this is the critical part, changing the rules so that getting better means getting paid less.
It all comes back to that Medicated state rule.
It does, and it leaves you, the listener, with a really uncomfortable question. If the VA penalizes you for managing your symptoms, if your disability check gets cut because your medication is working, are they actually incentivizing you to stay sick?
That is a terrifying thought. If I can't afford to lose the check, I might just stop taking the pill.
And if the goal is to support the troops, why are we deporting the ones who served and firing the ones who work there? It seems the battle for veterans' benefits isn't being fought on some foreign shore anymore. It's being fought in human resources offices and in rulemaking committees right here at home.
And that is where we are going to leave it. Stay vigilant, check on your battle buddies, and read the fine print on those new rules. The J-Spot is a J. Breyer Allen production, edited by Jay Rivera, Daniel Reyes, and Gisette Garcia.